The evening passed in a slow but purposeful seduction. I started by telling her how great her new hairstyle looked on her. Later, I complimented her strawberry blonde hair and icy blue eyes, saying they sparkled like diamonds. I didn't fail to stroke her hair and lightly touch her shoulder. After dinner and a couple glasses of Chablis, I could see that her resistance was beginning to weaken. After she cleared the table and went into the kitchen to do the dishes, I took it to the next level. I made my way to the living room and asked Alexa to turn on some slow dance music. Turning a knob, I dimmed the lights, poured each of us a glass of sherry, and brought a bottle of brandy for us to enjoy with our coffee. I put some logs and kindling in the fireplace. Then I went into the kitchen and put my hands on her shoulders while she washed the dishes. "I'm lonely. I'm waiting for you in the living room. Let me help you finish up and we can relax and enjoy some coffee." "That would be great. My dad always told me that many hands make light work." She smiles sweetly at me as she continues to wash the dishes. The object of my lust and affection is Allison Montgomery. She's about 5'5" tall and has 36D breasts that seem even bigger on her petite body. To say she's gorgeous is like saying, the Mona Lisa is a masterpiece, it's a given. She was wearing a floral print dress that only showed a hint of cleavage because she had taken off her pink cashmere sweater so it wouldn't get wet while doing the dishes. When we finished doing the dishes, I went back into the living room where I had already set the mood. I lit some kindling and built a fire. She brought the coffee, set it, ironically, on the coffee table, and sat next to me on the couch. If she hadn't guessed my intentions before, she did now. We drank the sherry, and I poured a generous portion of brandy into the coffee. As we finished our coffee, I noticed that she relaxed. I was due to hit the road tomorrow, so it was now or never, so I took it to the next level and asked her to dance. We danced for a few songs, leaving space between us, and on the third song, I pulled her closer. I could feel her breasts pressing against my chest. I looked at her beautiful face and caught her gaze, as if I was looking for some sign telling me to keep going. I could feel her heart beating against my chest and saw that her eyes were bedroom eyes. When the next song played, I grabbed her and pulled her tight to me so she could feel my arousal. When the song ended, she lifted her head. I looked into her eyes and then leaned in and kissed her. When we broke the kiss, I took her hand and led her to the rug by the fireplace. Orange and blue flames wrapped around the burning logs, and I placed a few pillows on the floor. I kissed her again, unzipping the zipper on the dress she had thrown on the floor. Our connection was extremely sexual in terms of pleasure, but also satisfying and extremely sensual. I leaned over and kissed her gently on the lips, then rolled off her and lay down beside her. I pulled her against me and held her in my arms as we cuddled by the fire. As the flames turned to embers and soon turned to ash, we got up and went to bed in search of restful sleep, still in the throes of post-coital bliss. As I dozed off, I regretted having to leave in the morning. I awoke to the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the smell of bacon frying. I took a quick shower, got dressed, and packed my bags. I carried my luggage downstairs and set it by the door, then joined her in the kitchen for breakfast. She poured me a cup of coffee and placed my plate in front of me. We ate breakfast in silence, and I quietly reflected on our connection last night that went beyond the physical, joining body, mind, and spirit into one in our union. I stood up. "I'm sorry, but I have to go or I'll miss my plane. Thanks for breakfast." Our eyes met, and we silently thanked each other for the otherworldly experience we had shared last night. I kissed her on the cheek, then walked to the door, grabbed my things, and headed for the exit. 2 months later. My name is Jason Montgomery. I'm looking forward to landing my plane so I can see my gorgeous wife again and take her into my arms. My company has a big project in Chicago, and as the chief troubleshooter, I'm traveling more than usual. This time I was away for 12 days. We've been trying to start a family, and he's been off the pill for 6 months, but still no pregnancy. So I decided that I would go and get tested on the road. I was worried because I had a severe case of mumps my senior year of college. I went to a top-notch urologist, Dr. Martin Pendergrass. I had a sample taken, which turned out to be quite copious, given my recent abstinence from sexual activity. I made an appointment on Monday, and on Friday morning, I got a call from the nurse telling me that my results were ready and asking me to come in at 3 p.m. I left work early and sat in Dr. Martin's waiting room like I was on pins and needles. Finally, I heard my name called and was ushered into the doctor's office. "Please have a seat. The doctor will be right with you," leaving me with a happy smile. Finally, Dr. Martin walked in. He shook my hand and sat down at his ornate oak desk. "Jason, I'd like to give you the best news. The test showed an extremely low sperm count and poor motility. This condition in layman's terms means that your swimmers are not very good swimmers. Given your low sperm count and poor sperm motility, the odds of you ever fathering a child are astronomical. Again, I apologize. I have a copy of the lab report for you to take home. Of course, you can retake the test. However, I recommend you save your money because I guarantee the accuracy and validity of the results. I'll walk you out and you can pick up your copy at the counter." I walked out of Dr. Martin's office in complete shock. I picked up my report, paid my bill, and headed back to the construction site. Back at the hotel, I showered, got dressed, and called Allie. No one answered at home, so I called her cell phone, and it went straight to voicemail. I didn't pay much attention to it, figuring she had gone to the movies with one of her friends or her sister Denise. I left her a message reminding her to meet me at the airport tomorrow afternoon, and that I love and miss her. I really needed to talk to her after I got the results of the exam, just to hear her voice. News like this needs to be delivered face to face, and I know she will be shocked. I went out to eat, and after barely eating my burger and fries, I went back to the hotel and the bar. I didn't completely shut down the establishment, however. I felt no pain as I staggered back to my room. Fortunately, I had the good sense to drink 2 bottles of water and put a third on a coaster next to my bed. I also took some ibuprofen to prevent the onset of a hangover headache. When the alarm clock rang, I slowly rolled out of bed. I managed to avoid a complete hangover. As I got out of bed, I felt slightly nauseous. I took a shower and relieved myself. The headache could have been caused by lack of sleep. The booze and water had caused me to toss and turn between the bed and the bathroom most of the night. I jumped in the shower, and the jets of hot water relieved the headache and made me feel human again. I toweled myself off, shaved, and brushed my teeth, and then got dressed. I packed my suitcase and then headed to a nearby Denny's restaurant for breakfast. While waiting for breakfast, I checked my messages to see if Allie had returned my call. There was nothing. I thought it was unusual for my breakfast to arrive. I ate, went back to the hotel, and checked out. I had to head to O'Hare early because the traffic was just awful. After I got through TSA pre-check and pulled up to the gate, I decided to call Allie. She answered on the 4th ring. She must be busy with the kids. The kids, Emily Rose and Abby Marie, I should tell you more about. They're our dear pugs, and they can be quite a hassle. "Hey, Jason, is something wrong?" She sounded exhausted, huffing and puffing, probably running to the phone or dealing with one of the crises my kids have at any given moment. "No, honey, it's nothing. I just wanted to hear your voice before I got on the plane. I missed you last night. Why are you out of breath? Is it the babies?" I said, giving her time to catch her breath. "No, baby. The babies have already eaten and are lazily stretching out, falling asleep in the sunlight streaming through the window. I had just started watching the show since I overslept when the phone rang. I jumped out and ran to the phone. Are you still coming over at 1:17 today?" "Yes, honey, I can't wait. I missed you so much. I hope you miss me too." "I missed you so much." "Babe, I left the shower on, so I gotta go. I'll see you this afternoon. I'll come get you with bells on. Love you, bye." She hung up before I could tell her I loved her too. Oh well, I'll be able to tell her that in 2 hours. I heard the boarding call for first and business class. Thankfully, my boss indulges me by letting me fly in style rather than in the cramped confines of the coach. The flight went well, And after boarding, I saw Allie waiting for me in the hallway. As soon as I approached her, I grabbed her, kissed her, and squeezed her tightly. She looked simply radiant. Perhaps radiant would be a better word. She was certainly pleasing to the eye. "It's so good to be home," said I enthusiastically. "I missed you so much," said Allie, kissing me again. The smile never left her face, and while I'm grateful for the hero's welcome, I don't understand why she's so affectionate this time. I've been on business trips longer and never received such an eager greeting. We walked to the baggage claim, picked up my suitcase from the carousel, and rolled it to the car. On the way home, we chatted about ordinary, mundane things. In the back of my mind, I pondered when and how to break the bad news to Allie. Although she loves our kids, she needs a real, live human child to love. It kills me to think that I can't give her that. After coming home and taking the dogs out to do their business, I told Allie I had something to tell her, and I have something to tell you too. Come in the house. I'll be right there. I need to get something out of my bag. I pulled out the test results to show her what they showed. I braced myself for the emotional storm I assumed was coming. I walked in and saw a sheet draped in front of something hanging from the ceiling. The sheet had a cord tied into a knot so it could be pulled away to reveal something. I held out the paper to her, and before I could say anything, she screamed, "Surprise!" pulling the cord to reveal a poster that read, "Welcome home, Daddy!" I nearly fell to my knees in shock, pain, and despair when she asked, "What's this?" As she began to read the paper, I saw tears appear in her eyes. "Surprise! Who's the father? What, another fucking surprise? Surprise, I cheated on you and I'm having a baby with another man. I thought I was gonna ruin your world. Surprise, you ruined mine. I need to know who the fucking father is, now!" Allison sobbed uncontrollably and incoherently spoke through her tears. Suddenly, she was hyperventilating, and I quickly ran to the kitchen and grabbed a paper bag for her. "Take this and breathe into the bag slowly, inhaling and exhaling, slowly, calmly." I coached her, and she gradually regained her normal breathing rhythm. I didn't want to jeopardize her pregnancy. "I'm so sorry," she whispered as soon as she recovered enough to speak clearly and form coherent sentences. "Allie, I need to ask you some questions, and you need to answer each one truthfully. I promise not to yell or lose my temper. Stress is bad for your baby, so try to stay calm and just give me the answers I need, okay?" "I'll try." Tears were still rolling down her cheeks. "Okay, Allie, I'm going to ask you all my questions, and when I'm done, you can answer them in any order you want. Take your time, stay calm, but answer them completely and, most importantly, truthfully. I need to know. Okay? Here we go. Who's the father? Was it a one-night stand or a full-blown affair? If so, when did it start, and how long has it lasted? The most important question is why Allie? Is he prettier? Was it just sex, or was it more than that? Do you love him? If yes, do you plan to leave me for him? What have I done or not done that makes you want to throw yourself into another man's arms? How did you meet him? Did you do it in our bed? That's all for now. I may have additional or different questions as I go along. You may begin." With each question, my voice shook more and more, and tears ran down my cheeks. When Allie saw my tears, she realized how deep the knife was in my back and the pain it had caused. For a moment, she sobbed inconsolably, and I told her that she should calm down for the sake of her baby. She nodded, slowly pulled herself together, and began. I knew the answers would be another dagger stabbed into my heart. "Okay, I need to tell you how sorry I am for hurting you so badly and so much. I never would have believed you weren't the father until I read that report. At first, I thought it must be a mistake. I may still want to take a DNA test after the baby is born to find out the absolute truth. Until then, a big part of me believes that you are the father of the baby. I never wanted to be pregnant by someone else, and I hope that afterward you can forgive me, love our child, and be his or her father. I love you so much. I've said it all. Please know that this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, so I'm starting. Before you start, let's make a cup of tea and sit at the kitchen table. It'll be calmer that way, and I won't have to stare at that banner. Okay, I'll make the tea. She slowly strode into the kitchen, her footsteps as heavy as my heart. We sat down at the table, and as we sipped our tea, Allison began to give our answers. Father, I'm sorry. This is your friend Brian DeVoe. He stopped by a few times while you were out of town to check on me. And 2 months ago, he stopped by my place before he went out of town on business. There was a big thunderstorm, and I was afraid I'd be home alone. He took his bag from the car and offered to sleep in the guest room. I made dinner, and we drank wine, sherry, and coffee with brandy. He put on some slow dance music, dimmed the lights, and lit the fireplace. I should have realized he was trying to get in my pants, but at the time I thought he was just trying to make me feel better. After coffee, he asked me to dance, and I said yes. The more we danced, the more guilt overwhelmed me. I was lonely, and as we danced, he pulled me closer and I became aroused. I knew I should have stopped, but I needed someone. I didn't want to be alone. He kissed me, and one thing led to another. We had sex on the rug by the fireplace. My brain felt like it was on fire, so I said, Allie, give me a minute to think this through. I paused for a moment and then asked her to continue. It wasn't a one-night stand or a full-blown affair. It happened twice. Once, 2 months ago, and last night, he left here this morning. He was here when you called, we were in the shower, and you can guess why I was out of breath. For the first time, as I now realize, he took advantage of me at a vulnerable moment, and I believe it was completely intentional, that he planned to deliberately seduce me. I wish I could say it was just sex. However, he was a generous and caring lover who intentionally made love to me. It was so sensual and so romantic by the fire. It was a perfect storm of fear, loneliness, and lust, and I sought a safe harbor, but was eventually consumed by him. The second time around, I have no excuses except to say that I was so enchanted by what happened the first time that I fell easily into his arms when he returned that Friday. I didn't plan or invite him, he just showed up. I know I should have sent him away, but I thought I could trust him, that he would behave and realize it was a one-time deal. I was weak. I stumbled and failed you, me and us. I'm sorry the second time we slept in our bed. I was excited about the whole thing and felt more spry, and it was easier and more comfortable than on the floor. No, I don't love him. I never planned on leaving you. The last time I made him use a condom and told him I never ever wanted to see him again before he left. He seemed handsome to me. However, you are more handsome than he is, and he seemed much less handsome than you to me. You haven't done anything and you don't do anything. You are an amazing husband, an exceptionally talented, skillful, and giving lover. You are a wonderful man who I love deeply and completely. I still can't understand why I acted the way I did. I know I am unworthy, but if you can find it in your heart to forgive me, I will spend the rest of my life trying to regain your trust and make you happy. No matter what happens, I never want to see that bastard again. He saw me as just another piece of meat and another notch on his belt. Just thinking about him makes me want to puke. By now, I was desensitized, and even though I knew it would hit me like a ton of bricks later, I continued. Allie, have you told him about the baby? If not, do you plan on telling him he's going to be a father? She looked me straight in the eye, and with an unwavering determination like I had never seen in her eyes. Jason, I would rather die than tell him or let him be a part of this child's life. I need a man who has a moral compass, who knows right from wrong, who is fair, compassionate, and strong of mind and character. He needs to be you, Jason, just you. My tears were flowing, and I struggled to speak clearly and concisely. Allie, I feel like I didn't know you at all, and now I know I can't trust you. I love you, but I feel betrayed by both you and him. Unlike you, I want to see him just once. He'll get his in due time. I have to leave. I'm not sure I can raise or love another man's child, especially the product of an affair. I'm willing to try to see a counselor but offer only promises. It's probably something I won't be able to put behind me, but I'll try. Answer one more question. If the question of our marriage or your bastard child came up, if I couldn't endure the pain and deception that the child represents, would you give him up for adoption? Jason, please don't put me in such a no-win situation. In my opinion, I would rather live alone and miserable for the rest of my life than give the baby up for adoption. You are the one and only person I will ever love, and the only man I will ever marry. Please find a place in your heart for me, for us. You are the father of this baby, and I don't care if the odds are 1,000,000 to 1 until I have proof. I will never accept that you are the biological father of our baby, Jason, our baby. Okay, Allie, that's it. I have a lot to process and a lot to think about while I sort out my feelings, I said annoyingly, as I stood up and heated the kettle, pulling out a fresh brew and pouring her another cup. Here, Allie, drink this and try to relax. You need to think about your baby. I have some things to take care of this week. I'm going to stay in the guest room. I have to go to Chicago for 2 or 3 days. Hopefully I'll come back with some answers. I'll leave for Chicago on Tuesday. Drink your tea and then go to bed and rest. We'll talk more when I get back. Until then, we must coexist peacefully under the same roof, okay? If not, I'll find somewhere to stay. Jason, I'll do whatever it takes just to get you to stay. Do whatever you think you need to do. I'll say goodnight to you, and Jason, I know you don't believe it, but I love you very much. Good night. On Monday, I met with my boss and told him I needed a vacation. After I told him what was going on, he agreed to help me out and gave me as much time as I needed to work things out. I told him I was going to Chicago for a couple days anyway. He thanked me for taking care of it. The first thing I did was call the best obstetrics clinic in town, Dr. Jesse Brewster's office, where I made an appointment for Ellie's prenatal care. I also called her sister Karen to come stay with her while I was in Chicago. Over the weekend, I realized that no matter what Allie did, her baby was just a bystander. He hadn't asked to be dragged into this mess, and I had no right to take my anger, hurt, or frustration out on an innocent child. I vowed that no matter what, I would make sure she received proper care. I hired a divorce attorney to figure out what my options were if the decision to end the marriage became inevitable. I went to the bank and transferred some money there. We didn't have a lot of credit card debt since we were paying off the balances every month. I paid off what I had and changed the limit on our joint card from $10,000 to $1,000. I opened a new account in my name only with a credit limit of $20,000. I like to be prepared for emergencies. Surprise! I've never been attached to a special forces unit. I have an old crew, and neither I nor anyone I know knows a man associated with the mafia. I have no plans to kill him, and I'm not a hacker who can steal his money or make him look like an embezzler. I've talked to several purchasing agents in my area who plan to make Brian a black agent, not so much to help me get my pound of flesh, but to keep him away from his wives. I also sent him a copy of an email with audio of Allie's full confession, as well as my question and answer session. I told him that if I ever found out he was within 500 miles of Allie, his wife would get the recording, and Allie would get voluntary testimony on his wife's behalf at the divorce hearing. Like Allie's child, his wife and children were innocent, and while I wanted to stop him, I didn't want to do anything that would hurt his family. Since I've called everyone I know within a 500-mile radius and told them all about old Brian, I doubt he'll ever cross the threshold of my house again. Although I occasionally send him an email at work to remind him if he forgets. Surprise! Allie developed preeclampsia and had to spend the last 3 months of her pregnancy on complete bed rest. I had to hire a maid and a home nurse for the hours I worked. I still slept in the guest room, so I bought a baby monitor in case she needed help at night. She wanted to know the baby's gender ahead of time, which allowed me to design a nursery in the spare bedroom next to the master bedroom for the little girl. I even threw a baby shower. I invited all her friends and set up chairs and a table for food in her room. Karen and best friend Allie Marcy came to the rescue and helped pick out games, buy small prizes for games, and set up the table for food and drinks. Surprise! Counseling really helped me, if not understand her betrayal, at least get over it and try to lay a foundation on which to gradually build trust. I was so busy during my pregnancy that I didn't give much thought to the baby's lineage. Intensive counseling was still focused on the relationship between Allie and I, and the baby could be talked about later. Surprise! I couldn't handle it when the baby finally arrived. I ended up moving out for a while to get myself in order. This upset Allie, who thought we were making progress. She named her Georgia May Allen, her maiden name. I just couldn't put my name on the birth certificate. I considered seeing another therapist to work through my issues with the baby. When Georgia May was 3 months old, I took a DNA test, as Allie had requested, and was not surprised that, as Dr. Pendergrass suggested, my swimmers didn't swim, and as Maury Povich would say, when it comes to 3-month-old Georgia May, Jason, you are not the father. And then Maury would be telling me that I should be in the little girl's life and be her father. I was about to seriously consider that since Brian would never know or have any role in Georgia May's life, I could safely step into that role. However, just like in the Maury series, there was another twist. Surprise. When it comes to 3-month-old Georgia May, Brian, you are not a father. I don't know who fainted first, Allie or me. I would be very surprised if I could go through it all again. Before I leave, I'll be sure to get Allie on Maury's show. You just can't think of shit like that. Or can you?